Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Your Fave Film Critic, the podcast starring, hosted, recorded, produced, and idealized, whatever, by me, Dom Griffin, your favorite film critic, at least I hope. And this is episode 18 of the podcast, and we've got... actually have a lot of stuff to talk about. It's crazy. I didn't watch very many movies this week. I actually technically only watched 3. And I was like, this is like, I don't want to talk about this week. But the last several episodes really have been very like watch heavy because of Hooktober and stuff. So, luckily for me, a lot of stuff happened like in the last like 2 days. So, we'll start off with the news. There's plenty of stuff to talk about there. We'll go into a little bit of the stuff that I watched this week. Primarily, we're going to go into more in-depth, like spoilery stuff about the Marvels. I reviewed the Marvels. New video is up on the channel if you haven't seen that yet. And I just figured stuff that didn't really fit into the video and I didn't really want to spoil or ruin stuff for people. I'll talk about that here. I'll timestamp it in the show notes, so like if you still haven't seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, you can just skip it. And then we have some questions, so yeah, it's gonna be a good time. All right. So we'll start with the news. The first major thing, obviously, is SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP came to a tentative agreement to end the fucking strike. To wrap it up, after the AMPTP had come back with 7 or 8 different our last and final offers, like just coming to the table being like, this is it, you take this or you guys are fucked. And then SAG being like, no, you still have this one clause in here that says that you can turn my baby into an NFT or whatever. So they just kept saying no. And obviously, because the studios need to be producing movies, they need to be making content, they need actors, they need to get back to work, they agreed. I've only seen some of the stuff for the deal, but they said it's the deal's worth $1 billion. There's going to be streaming, profit sharing, better healthcare stuff, a bunch of good stuff. And they apparently managed, I feel like one of the big last sticking points was they managed to get some fucking language to protect people from the fucking AI digital likeness shit. We just want to own your face and then do stuff with you in the future, whether or not you want us to. And it's insane that was such a sticking point for so long. That's crazy. And I feel like it really sort of shows how much these big studios, and I guess just everyone at this point, it wants to not have any guardrails placed on whatever AI is going to turn into, whatever the generative AI stuff can do. If there's a way to make shit easier to make money and not spend as much, they just want that to be on the table. They don't want that to go away for ethical reasons or whatever. But it sounds like they got some language put in there, and that's good. So it sounds like they got a good deal. And immediately, actors are being sent back to work. And not just, I don't mean some productions are probably going to be shooting very soon, resuming shooting, and then probably... having to stop for Thanksgiving, I guess, but it sounds like a lot of people are just going to have to get back on it. And but not just that though, also promoting shit. So I feel like the SAG strike wasn't as big a deal during the late summer, in terms of affecting box office, because Barbenheimer was such a juggernaut, and it didn't matter that the people in it weren't promoting it. They did that movie was a phenomenon. It was a cultural force. But a couple of smaller movies near the end of the summer did obviously suffer from not being able to be promoted by the cast. Mission Impossible, sort of. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I feel like definitely not having those really charming kids out there doing stuff online was probably a factor. And now, we've just been seeing, if you can't get people out there promoting the movie and every, doing hot ones and doing GQ answers and just all these different things in late night shows and stuff that, it can really heavily affect how the movie's marketed, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. But I think I saw already that Brie Larson and Tom Hiddleston are going to be on the Tonight Show tomorrow night, or I guess when you're listening to this tonight, or to promote the Loki finale and the Marvels, obviously. Very clearly a situation too little too late on those two projects, but, they're getting people back out there. We're about to see Timothée Chalamet fucking soft shoeing for the next month and a half for this Wonka movie. Like they're gonna have him just out there like the dancing frog from the WB. Like he's just gonna be put to work. Which is like, that's what you get for fucking signing up for this goofy ass movie and wearing that hat, man. I don't know what else to say to you about that. I hope Wonka's good. Paul King's a cool director. I love the first 2 Paddingtons, but the trailer's not good. And I don't think Timmy's the right guy. I love Timmy. Big fan of the Timster. Timmy Charmander, my guy. But it just looks like a, kind of a disaster. Hey, if it's good, I'll eat my words. I love doing that. It's my favorite meal. Being wrong. But yeah, it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like it's going to be good. But he's going to be out there pushing it, just pushing it, trying to make some money off of it. But yeah, so the SAG strike is over there. That means a bunch of fucking movies can finish being filmed and start being filmed. We're probably going to start to see a huge floodgate of like casting announcements and stuff. Because like even though the strike was going on, a lot of actors were still talking to people at future projects, and a lot of people probably are on like handshake deals or under the table stuff that are going to be finalized officially now. Like I think World of Real maybe was reporting that like the entire cast for Tarantino's final movie, the movie critic, is basically like set already, or the critic, whatever the fuck he's calling it. So we'll start to see those announcements. And obviously the big rumor for a while, which I think is true, is that Marvel already has the cast for Fantastic Four in place, and they're just waiting for the strike to be over to announce it. I feel very stupid earlier. Disbussing Film, which is like a parody account of Discussing Film, which usually you can spot their posts because they're often very trolly and obviously funny and goofy and weird. But sometimes they'll just post stuff that seems legit, like not like just like to be like a dick or whatever. And they had a thing saying that like they were going to announce the Fantastic Four cast like 7 p.m. tonight, Source Variety. And I saw it in passing, and I was like, oh, that'll be interesting. So later, around 8 or whatever, I was like, hey, I haven't seen that on my timeline. And then I looked and I was like, oh, that was Disbussing. That was not discussing. That was not credible. They got me. It's rare, but I can still be got. But yeah, dude, it's over. That's beautiful. I think middle of next year, I think, who else is, I don't think it's IATSE, but there's like, I think 2 other guilds who are up for their deals their contracts to be renegotiated again. So if they got to go on strike, they got to go on strike. I mean, you would sort of hope that at this point, the studios would just be like, fuck it. Let's just give it to them. But that is not how capitalism works. So, I'm really happy that people they worked and they got this stuff, and the solidarity and everyone supporting them. It felt like a really good thing this year. Like a lot of very horrible shit has happened this year and is continuing to happen as we speak. But I do think that the outcome of the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes is very nice. Like it sucks that people are out of work for so long, and there's obviously a lot of damage done and stuff, but I feel like it was worth it. I mean, I hope, time will tell, I suppose, but good shit. That leads into my next thing, which is that there's going to be now a lot of productions and stuff. Now that they know their sort of timetable for getting back into the swing of things, we're going to see a lot of release date changes because some projects that were in the middle of filming, now that they know that they're going to restart, they now know kind of like, all right, we're not going to have this done by that time. Or if they will, they don't want to rush it, or like they want to, the marketplace changes. So like some big movies are going to move their release dates. That's going to affect other movies that don't want to be near those movies and such and such. So the first wave that I think we've gotten is a bunch of MCU movies got their dates moved. Basically all of the rest of Phase 5 all got new dates. But the key thing is Deadpool 3 was in the middle of filming when the actor strike started. They were filming through the writer strike, which is awful, but whatever, they were. And Captain America, I've been calling it New World Order. I forgot they changed the title to Brave New World because I guess they realized how many negative connotations there were to that. Or maybe Eric Bischoff threatened to sue them. I don't know. That doesn't even make sense. He doesn't even fucking own that. Anyway, whatever. Captain America Brave New World has been, I think they've wrapped filming. Like they filmed the whole thing. So when I was looking at the release dates, I was like, oh, well, what's probably going to happen is Deadpool 3 and Cap will swap dates, because Deadpool 3 was supposed to be out in like February or something, or February, March, I think. And then Cap was like June or July. And it's like, well, if one of those is done shooting, there's they're probably further along in the process and stuff. And then Deadpool will just move to the summer. But then today, no, it's more than that. Deadpool got moved to the summer, like June, July or something. And then I think Cap got moved to next year, maybe. I don't actually care. I'm not gonna look at the exact dates, but it got moved a bunch. And it's because apparently they have to do heavy reshoots. I guess I think the report that I saw said like 3 major sequences have to be completely redone or retooled. It sounds like negative test screening. Sounds sort of like what was happening with the Marvels. So that means they are not going to be done in time for Deadpool's release date. So it's just completely bumped off. And then like, I think Blade got pushed in like the end of 2025 or some shit. It's like everything is just getting pushed. And I don't know. I mean, like with the way the Marvels is kind of tanking at the moment, it sort of feels like Marvel having to go and sit in the corner and think about what it's done, you know, and kind of regroup and figure out what the fuck they're going to do to right the ship. I don't think they're gonna, but I mean, they're gonna try, I guess, and, you know, good on them. But yeah, I was like, damn, that was fucking fast. I just assumed it would be very simple because like the similar things happen from like the pandemic and stuff, you know, like certain productions were further along. So like, you know, they'll wrap those up and get them out. But it's funny because like, it means there's not going to be another Marvel movie for like 7 months or something, which is like, fine, whatever. I'm fine with that. I don't care. But it is weird. Well, I'll talk about it a little more later when I talk about the Marvels, but like, it's weird that like the way this one ends feels like it was supposed to dovetail like into Deadpool. And then I thought, oh, well, now it's going to have to dovetail into Captain America. That's weird. But now it's like, no, it will be fine. It will still dovetail into Deadpool. But the rest of the phase is just like kind of the only one I'll be honest, the only one I'm genuinely curious about is the Fantastic Four movie. I'm very curious to see who they cast. That Matt Shankman guy, I like WandaVision for the most part, so like I'm not against him directing it. He seems like he's going to be sort of like a John Watts type situation where it's like I don't know what that guy's style is, but I happen to love the Fantastic Four a lot, and even if I'm kind of curious to see even a bad version of it, you know, so I will admit that I am curious about that. But everything else, like Cap 4 and a bunch of people from the fucking Incredible Hulk, and then like the Thunderbolts movie, don't give a shit at all. Blade is probably going to be a disaster. Like the whole fucking thing, I was just like, man, this is like not great. Which is, I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, they moved a bunch of them dates. And then this is not a date move exactly. It's a date cancellation, I guess. Warner Brothers had this movie called Coyote versus Acme, and it was like one of their live action animated split movies, like Space Jam or like all those Looney Tunes movies with Brendan Fraser. And it was Wile E. Coyote going to court with the Acme Corporation, and I think like John Cena was like playing the president of Acme, and like I think James Gunn helped write it or produce it or something, and Will Forte was in it. I guess like it sounded like it was going to be like a fun thing, like a fun little thing. And it was originally supposed to come out, I think, on Barbie's original release date. And then they gave that to Barbie, and then they were just going to make it like a Max thing, I thought. And then today they announced they're not going to fucking put it out at all. It is getting Batgirled. They're going to take a $30 million tax write-off to put it in the vault, basically. And sort of unlike the situation with Batgirl, where like a lot of people really wanted to see it released, but there were a lot of reports about like, it's probably really bad though. Like it might actually be like unreleasable. This, people who've seen it like in the industry who've come out have been like, it's really good. This is like the best movie like this since Roger Rabbit, which is very high praise. And like from the premise and stuff and the cast, I was like, this actually does sound pretty fun. It sounds like it'd be pretty cool. But they just decided it would be better to take the $30 million tax write-off than it would be to spend the money to market it, or to, I think the report said, or to spend the money to sell it to someone. And I'm like, how is it going to cost you guys money? Like, oh, I guess they just meant like they were not going to be able to make $30 million off of it. They wouldn't make more than the tax write-off, so it made more sense to just write it off. And like, I get it, right? Like on a, like something that I kind of hate about myself is that like my actual real life like values are like very anti-capitalist and like very like, you know, I just don't like the way our society is set up and stuff, and I think it sucks. But then like, you know, like I have a job, you know, I live a regular life, and you know, I run a business sort of, and I've gotten over the years, I've had to be more comfortable with a lot of like financial reality things. And there's a lot of stuff that happens where like me, real me, the Dom that exists when I clock out is just like, well, that's horseshit, you know, fuck that shit. But then the me that has bills to pay is like, well, this is just what we have to do. Like in my head, there's like it sounds really fucked up, but it's like in my head, it's like Vince McMahon's voice is just like, well, pal, this is just what you got to do to, you know, fourth quarter and stuff. Like I hate it. I hate hearing it in my head. So like that version of me in my head gets it. It's like, all right, well, look, the movie's not gonna fucking make money. You got to make money off these goddamn things, blah, 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 blah. But even setting aside like the business stuff, I just think the practice of like shelving a movie and writing it off for tax money is like coward shit. I think that the industry, I don't know if you can like quantify it necessarily, but I feel like the industry was, I guess I can't say demonstrably better, but I think cooler. I'll just say that. I can sort of quantify that. Cooler when the studios had to own their failures. I just think that like, if you decide to greenlight something, you put a bunch of money behind it and it's fucking trash and you can't fix it, you got to put that shit out and then take your drubbing and let people rip into it and mock you and shit. That's what you get. You know what I mean? Like if you fucked up, that's part of the process. You made a shitty movie, you got to go out and live with that shitty movie. Show everyone the shitty movie you made, you know, if it's a shitty movie. But, you know, and like in the case of Batgirl, it was like, you guys never should have spent this much fucking money on a movie that was going directly to a streaming platform. And like, it's a completely different like production style and pipeline and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like from just look at some of the leaked pictures, you look at it, and you're like, yeah, that's not something you would have released theatrically. Like it would have looked embarrassing. It would have been tolerable, you know, on like your MacBook screen maybe, but on a big screen, it's fucking awful. And I feel like on some level, Warner Brothers, not the people that made the film, I'm pretty sure that they did their best and maybe it was like charming or good or whatever. Warner Brothers, the fucking people, it's like, hey, you guys thought it was a good idea to invest this much money in this like completely weird thing of you're trying to be Netflix and try to produce expensive original content for your streamer, not like, you know, low base hits and stuff. Like that's fine. You're gonna fucking try to make like a $90 million superhero movie that is not going to look good enough to release in a theater? That's fucking crazy. You should own that. Everyone should see it. And if it sucks, they should mock you. And if they like it, but it bombs, then you better hope that eventually it makes some money on whatever the future version of fucking Blu-ray sales is. I don't know. And now you have this thing where it's like, no, we're just gonna fucking put it away and pretend it didn't happen and the government will reimburse us. And again, I hope there's not anybody like who's like smart about money in the comments or whatever being like, actually it works this way. I don't care. General principle. I think if you make a movie and a bunch of people worked on it, regardless of what they did, I think at the very least, those people should get the opportunity to get to see the fucking thing in a theater, to have their friends go, to have their mom go or whatever. And if the movie doesn't make that much money, well, then you lost. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to me how many like businesses have this thing of like, well, we can't lose money. Like, well, sometimes you're going to lose money and then other times you make a ton. So like it balances out, I imagine, but it's like Warner Bros. I mean, the whole WBD thing, they've had to take on so much debt from the last sale and stuff. And it's fucking crazy. So like I said, I get why they're doing it, but it just, to me, I'm just like cowards, like pussy, you know? I look at it and I'm like, really? Like, you're not just going to put the movie out? You guys just have no class. And the final like news related thing I guess I'll talk about is they released the Ghostbusters 2 trailer, or I'm sorry, Ghostbusters 2 is a movie that exists and one that I like quite much. The Ghostbusters Frozen Kingdom, the trailer for that came out, and it looks like dog shit. Okay, we're just gonna get into this. So I was scrolling on Twitter, scrolling on X, and I saw they're like, hey, we released the trailer for Ghostbusters, the Frozen Kingdom. And I was like, what the fuck, the Frozen Kingdom? We're calling that movie that? Okay. And I just played it because I was like, whatever. You know, I like hit and play on stuff. And the trailer opens with like pretty like crummy New York summer footage. It sort of looks like if someone was trying to create like, here's what a summer day in the city looks like, and the only 2 movies they've seen were Jaws and Do the Right Thing, and they've never been to New York, is kind of how it looked. I know that Jaws does not take place in New York City, but the trailer made it felt like a mixture of those 2 movies, but ugly and shitty. And then like the entire like Hudson River or whatever like turns to ice, like the whole city. Like it literally looks like an Arkham cutscene or something with Mr. Freeze. I was like, what the shit? And then you hear Patton Oswalt's voice saying like, this is the first time anyone ever died from like freezing to death in July in New York or some shit, whatever. And the Ghostbusters have to fight whatever. Something ghost related is making the entire city a frozen tundra, and the Ghostbusters have to stop them. And it's like the kids from the last movie and Paul Rudd and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray's in this again. It's like, man, I thought for years he refused to make Ghostbusters 3. And then he did that bullshit last time and he's back for this. It's like, what's, do you not have scruples like we thought you did? Whatever. Here's my feelings about it. I did not like Ghostbusters Afterlife at all. And I knew I had seen it, but I could not remember any of the circumstances around seeing it. I was like, where did I see it? Did I like rent that? Was it streaming? And then I'm like, no, I went to a press screening for it. And then I was like, well, where did I review it? Did I review it? Because I don't remember reviewing it. And I thought I'd like written a review because I did make a video. I know that for sure. No, dear listeners, I did make a fucking video about this movie. I have no recollection of doing it, of like writing it, recording it, editing it. I don't remember fucking putting it out. I don't remember making a thumbnail, none of that shit. So I went and I rewatched my review of Ghostbusters Afterlife. And it's not a bad video. It's not one of my best, but it's not bad. And in the video, I lead with a clip of me in a different video that I do remember making about Kevin Smith's He-Man cartoon. And in that video, I made a bit of a mini rant about the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer when that first came out and what I didn't like about it and all this different stuff. And in that video, before I saw the movie, I said a bunch of things about the movie, what I assumed. And then the movie was exactly all those things that I said, like to a T. And then at the end of this review, I talked about how I hated the idea that we're going to get sequels and that those sequels are just going to be the same thing, but worse and more so. And then I saw this trailer and I was like, I was right fucking 2 times in a row. Look at me. Again, I told you earlier, I like eating my words when I'm wrong. I hate how often I am not. I mean, I'm wrong about that. Sometimes I'm wrong really hard. I'm not perfect, but I wasn't wrong about this. It fucking sucks. And I feel the need to clarify that if you liked Ghostbusters Afterlife and you were excited for Frozen Kingdom and you liked the trailer, I don't mean that if you like it, you're dumb or something like that. I really don't want to come off as like condescending or holier than thou or whatever. You guys have heard me on this podcast alone talking about a lot of wild shit that maybe sucks that I happen to like. So I'm not going to judge anybody. But I fundamentally hate that like Ghostbusters is a comedy. Ghostbusters it's a fucking comedy. It's a comedy where Dan Aykroyd gets his dick sucked by a fucking ghost. It's like a joke movie. Okay? It's got ghosts in it and people busting them, but it's like a comedy. It's a goofy fucking movie and we love it. It's fantastic. It's an American classic, okay? But all these fucking elder millennials or whatever, or maybe very, very, like, I don't know, like late Gen Xers. I don't know the exact fucking crosshairs of it. It's like slightly older than me. It's probably the best way I can describe it in my head. Because I grew up, I had the Ghostbusters cartoon. I had the toys. I had Ecto Cooler. But I don't have like some reverence for any of those things. Like I don't give a shit. There's a lot of stuff I liked as a kid that as an adult I don't care that much about, but I still feel sort of like a connection to it. Like I'd, take a bullet for Gem and the Holograms. Like I still love He-Man to a certain degree. I rock with the Thundercats, stuff like that, all that 80s shit. But Ghostbusters, I'm like, as I got older, like for a long time I did want a Ghostbusters 3 because I thought Harold Ramis was going to direct it. And I love Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies, and I like Ramis, and other things he's made is pretty good. And I thought it would be like a cool thing. They'd have the original cast, and maybe they'd cast some newer, younger comedy guys to like take their place. Some Saved by the Bell, the new class shit. It seemed very straightforward to me. And at one point, I can't remember their names. It's like, I want to say it's Lee Eisenberg and Gene Stupnitsky. I don't think those are correct names, but like they sound like those two guys. Let me know in the comments if I'm right. I'm not gonna look it up. They were writers in The Office and some other things, and like they had a Ghostbusters 3 script for a while that like I think was like maybe the closest to becoming a real movie. And those guys also did I want to say one of them at least worked on the new the new Jennifer Lawrence comedy No Hard Feelings. Is that what that movie was called? I really liked it. It's like on my like best movies of the year list. I think one of them worked on that. So those guys are like smart, pretty funny. Like they write like funny but kind of heartfelt stuff. They did the episode of The Office where like Michael and Jan have Jim and Pam over for dinner. I feel like that's maybe like the year that like the last year The Office is good, or even like whatever. But anyway, those guys had a Ghostbusters 3 script, and like not always, but when it was around, I thought that was going to be a thing that happened. And then like eventually it gave way to like Jason Reitman's going to do it. His dad made Ghostbusters. Now he's going to follow in his father's footsteps. And I was like, this isn't like your birthright or some shit. Like, it was when I was a kid, I was on that set. So like, yeah, it's like, yeah, well, like, you don't make funny movies. I mean, Thank You for Smoking is pretty funny, I guess. But like, I feel like the source material is it based on a book? That was probably where the comedy came from. Well, that guy, I didn't want a fucking Ghostbusters movie from Jason Reitman. And it's like this very shitty Stranger Things, J.J. Abrams, Super 8, fake Amblin version of Ghostbusters, where there's like this huge reverence given to like the mythology of Ghostbusters, like it's fucking Star Wars or something. And I'm sick of Star Wars too, but at least I get it. I'm like, okay, I get how a generation of kids, like, it changed their fucking lives, but like Ghostbusters, the ghost blowjob movie changed your life, did it? You know, I just don't get it, man. I'm not with it. And the idea that like now a Ghostbusters movie is going to be this thing that has like lore and huge special effects and stuff and has to cost, I want nothing to do with it. The funniest part of all of this is that literally a day, I think, or maybe hours actually, before they announced that the strike was over, Patton fucking Oswalt was like shilling the movie on Twitter, like when the trailer came out, and it was like, do you not know how this fucking works? Every other person is like not, unless they got like some kind of provisional deal to promote their movie, not doing this type of shit. And like, you're doing this for Ghostbusters. It's not like you were in some movie that like desperately needs to be promoted or whatever. That movie's not coming out for like fucking, I don't think it comes out to like November or some shit. Like maybe a year from now. I don't know. It just made me think that he's kind of a fucking goober. And I like Patton Oswalt. Like he went to like, he didn't go to my high school, but we had a teacher in common. He's like from kind of where I'm from. But yeah, I was like, fuck you, Pat. That's so corny. You're being like really, really lame right now, bro. You're embarrassing the hoes. I meant to say scaring the hoes. I don't know what embarrassing the, like, that sounds like a weird insult to someone. Like, you're embarrassing the hoes. They're embarrassed to perceive you, fucko. But yeah, he's doing that too. Okay, that's everything for my my news section. We're done with the news now. We're going to go on to what I watched this week, which is not very much. Everything that I watched this week is for a review that I either did or has not come out yet. So, this past weekend, I wasn't sure what I was going to cover for the Baltimore Beat. We only have 2 issues left for the year, and one of them was a holiday issue. And I was like, I guess I'll cover like a Christmas movie of some sort. But I'd sort of intended to try to cover the Marvels because I just thought that would be like a good thing to do. But the screening was like a day after my issue deadline, so I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So I wanted to find a Christmas movie, and all the Christmas movies I've liked, I've written about at some point before. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of stuff that I like haven't covered. Last year I wrote about Scrooged, which is one of my favorite Christmas movies. And in that review, I made a reference to another very lovely Christmas movie, A Diva's Christmas Carol, with Vanessa L. Williams as Ebony Scrooge, a singer who's a curmudgeon, and then she has the Christmas shit, the Christmas Carol Christmas shit happens to her. And I was like, maybe I'll write about that, because I haven't seen it in years. And it's like not streaming anywhere. You can't rent it, you can't buy it, nothing. And I was getting down to the wire, like I have to watch something so that I have time to write about it. Like I'm getting close to deadline here. And when I was looking for it, I found that there is a movie called A New Diva's Christmas Carol that came out, or was made in 2022. I don't know if it came out last year, it came out this year, but it's very recent. So I watched that, and Ashanti, isn't it? Is Aphrodite, a famous singer who's like jaded and miserable and like a meanie, and she's the judge on a voice style singing show. And her best friend and like manager / producer or whatever is sort of like her Bob Cratchit. And they don't do the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, Future. I mean, they do, but they don't call them that. It's like just 3 random sort of deities show up, and it's like Vivica A. Fox, Robin Givens, and Eve Marcille from like that one season of Real Housewives of Atlanta, where I was like, why are you on this? She just didn't fit on the show at all. I don't know. Anyway, she's in it, and she's like cutting up and like being really, her performance is really crazy. Ashanti, not a great actress, gorgeous woman, extraordinarily talented, looks great in most outfits, but like not good at acting. So like that's kind of holding the movie back, but it ended up being kind of, it got kind of deep, like unearthing some of her like trauma and stuff. It was like, oh, this is like kind of hard. And then like the ending was really solid. Like the thing I like about A Christmas Carol in any version of it is that like it's hard to fuck up, no matter how like repetitive or unoriginal your adaptation of A Christmas Carol is. Like it's hard to fuck up. Watching like a piece of shit rich person get like shamed into having a heart, and then at the end being like magnanimous and sweet to everybody is like, it just hits the spot, you know? So the last like 5 or 10 minutes, I definitely teared up. I was like, damn, I did not expect A New Diva's Christmas Carol to make me feel things. I did not expect Ashanti getting her like a rookie singer's girlfriend like expensive surgery. I thought that was funny. It's like she's mentoring this like young singer, and the singer's girlfriend has injuries from like a car accident. And I was like, so she's the Tiny Tim? That's kind of random. So whatever. It was weird, but I wrote a review about it. It'll be in the Beat next issue. I'll share it later. But yeah, I watched that. And then Tuesday, I went to see The Marvels. And if you haven't seen it yet, I made a video about it that came out Wednesday morning when the embargo lifted. If you haven't seen my video, go watch it, please, for the love of God. But if you haven't seen it and you don't intend to see it, which I respect, the TLDR on that is essentially, I went in thinking the movie was going to be hot garbage. I went in expecting the movie to be trash, and it was mostly just fine. It wasn't the worst MCU movie. I would not say it's one of the 5 worst MCU movies even. Not one of the best, obviously, not great, but like, to me, it sort of exists in this like middle ground space with like, I would put Shang-Chi in that space where there's enough there that's entertaining that I could forgive a lot of the shit I hated. Eternals, very similar, where it's like, I don't really like this, but like it's functional enough that it would be cruel of me to call it like terrible. Movies like that. I even sort of feel that way about Doctor Strange. Like there's just enough little Sam Raimi stuff for me to forgive everything else. It's a horrible script and everything else. But it's not like Thor Love and Thunder. It's not Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. It's not, some of the other terrible, terrible movies, So it was... My thing about the movie is that, like, I think that... I actually say everything I can say about this in the video, which is that I just think that Carol Danvers is... in the MCU, just not enough of a character. Like there's just not enough there. And it's not so much that like Brie Larson sucks or something. It's like that in the first movie, she spends the whole fucking movie with like amnesia. And in this movie, she has like 20 missing years that we're not privy to. And like they just kind of gloss over it with like one big dramatic thing. And it kind of gets to me in the sense of like, so like what is this? Who are you? How is this your second movie and we still have no sense of you? And that's semi-common with certain characters in the MCU, where they're underwritten and they don't really feel like their own characters, and they feel flatter than they do in the comics. But they typically, for a while there, these movies were all very well cast, right? We can all agree that like a lot of the people they put in these roles were like perfect for them. And Chris Evans was, I think, really, really good as Captain America for a long time. And Robert Downey Jr. was essentially, after the first like couple of movies, just coasting. But it was like, if some of these performers, when there was a lack, like on the page, they just filled it with like themselves, or like an altered version of their persona, which is a thing that movie stars have done forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's one of the reasons people like making movies with them. And like Brie Larson's persona and like energy and vibe is like, she's charming and stuff. Like she's funny in real life or whatever. She's cool. I don't think she's not talented. I don't think Brie Larson sucks. It's more just like, she's just not there. Do you know what I mean? She's just kind of like, I don't know. She doesn't feel like a real fucking person. And maybe that's just like a personal thing that I'm thinking about or something, but like, it didn't feel right to me. And I think the only reason I liked the movie as much as I did was because of Tiana Paris and Amani Villani as Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau, and like their interplay with her is really good. They're really like fun, and I was really into that. But the rest of it, like Zawe Ashton is Darben, like the Kree villain, sucked. The movie really seems to suffer from like cutting a lot of shit out in post-production-itis, you know, like it just feels like whole chunks of the movie are bitten out. And I just didn't give a shit about the story that much, really. I mean, I cared about like the relationship between the three leads, but the stakes and the threats and stuff, like a lot of Marvel movies have that thing where the third act is just identical to every other third act. It's just the same sort of, you know, big giant death ray and whatever. And like this, I feel like was even worse than that. Cause like Black Panther, right? I like a lot of stuff about Black Panther, but that third act is rough. A lot of Marvel movies have that thing. And this one doesn't even have that. It's like even less than that, which is crazy to me. And there's also stuff where all these movies we went from having like some kind of like actual sort of experienced writers being involved to like primarily like TV people, like ex-Rick and Morty people, and then now people from the Disney shows kind of moving over to the movies. And I don't think everyone realizes how much these movies like rhyme with each other, and not like in the cool prequels Lucas way, in the way of like, oh, you're just redoing this thing with this character. Like there's an entire sequence in the Marvels where they go to this like water planet, and I forget his name, but there's this South Korean actor who plays like the prince of this planet, and he's pretty famous like in South Korea. I don't think I've seen him in anything before. Handsome guy. He's given nothing to do. Like this thing happens a lot in some of these movies where like a foreign actor who hasn't done that many English language films will get a part, and then like their fans get excited he's going to be in a movie, and then they just do nothing. It's kind of one of those parts. But his people, they sing. It's like a musical planet. They do everything in song. So I'm watching this movie, and there's this entire sequence that's like Captain Marvel has to go to them, and it turns out she's like the princess of this planet because she did like a diplomatic wedding with this guy, and she's like, oh, they sing here, everything's a song. So it's like this whole musical set piece. And I don't know how to describe it. I didn't like it, but I was like, that's kind of cool. I was like, that's kind of like a little different. It felt like a big swing, is what I said in my video, I think, without spoiling it. And I was like, I don't think this should be here, but I'm kind of glad it is, because I like it more than some of the other fucking boring shit that's happening in this movie. But like in that sequence, I was like, this is just like the fucking part in Quantumania where Michelle Pfeiffer's got to go talk to Bill Murray. It's like almost identical. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like, we have characters that don't have backstories, so their backstories mean they can have done anything with anyone, and we can just play that for a gag. it's like they turn a lot of supporting characters into like Wolverine in that sense. Because like Wolverine's whole shtick is always like he has a bunch of unknown history. So any given time in a story, it can be like, I did this thing for this guy, bub, and like they whatever. And that makes it's fun for his stories, but it's not great for like everybody else. I don't know. And then there's another sequence not long after it where like everybody loved Goose, the cat from the first movie, who's not a cat. He's an alien, a flurkin that looks like a cat. And there's this giant sequence where like Nick Fury's space station's like gonna blow up or crash or whatever, and they don't have enough escape pods, so they have to. Goose lays a bunch of eggs on the ship, so a bunch of baby goose, a bunch of baby kittens that have tentacles coming out of their mouths. They have to use them to eat all the people on board, so they can fit the cats into the few remaining escape pods. And there's just this whole sequence of them chasing crew members with these baby cats, and the tentacles come out to eat them, and it's all set to Memory from Cats the Musical. And I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. It's super weird. The song cue was just like, what the fuck? And again, didn't like it, but I was like, hey, at least you're trying something. Shit, you know what I mean? Like some of these movies don't try anything. They're just like, blah. I was like, I kind of have to applaud this. Like I always applaud big swings in movies, even when they miss. I can't not applaud it here just because I think it's goofy, you know? So I think that I didn't really touch on my review that I've been thinking about ever since. I saw it in Robert Daniels, who's a film critic. He's like a top critic on RT. I believe he primarily writes for ebert.com. Robert Daniels, I didn't read his entire review. I just read his like letterbox blurb. Anytime I finish a review, I typically just go to Letterboxd and just skim through other people's reviews, like people whose like voice I'm familiar enough with, because then I kind of get to see sort of like a wide array of other opinions. And I like reading dissenting opinions, or I like reading, oh hey, me and this guy came to the same conclusions, or what the fuck is that guy talking about, or I don't know. I like that. I like the expansion of perspective about a movie, you know. But Daniels points something out in his. I don't know if it was just a blurb or if it was like an excerpt from his larger review, but he basically posed the question, what is an eye to cost a movie? Like what is her signature? What denotes what she does? And I was thinking about, like, I like her. Like I liked this movie, you know what I mean? Like not very much, but like enough. I liked Candyman, even though I know a lot of people didn't. And I sort of feel like if I watched it a second time, I might like it less. And I liked Littlewoods. I thought Littlewoods was a nice little charming movie. When I first saw Littlewoods, I was like, this just reminds me of like Frozen River and Winter's Bone. And then I saw a thing where she was like, those are the two movies I was inspired by. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's pretty obvious. But she's only made 3 movies now, right? She made one small indie. And then she made sort of like a legacy horror IP. And then now a giant superhero movie. And not even like an origin story. Like some people get to start off with like a fucking sequel. And it's like, some of these people, like you do not get the time and space to really develop your voice before you get some of these gigs. And I essentially feel like there's like 2 paths for this, for like the way this goes now. And I thought Naya was going to be a Coogler. Like Ryan Coogler made Fruitvale Station. And like that movie essentially immediately sort of shows you what his vibe is like. And then he got to do a legacy sequel. He got to do Creed, right? And Creed sort of builds on some of the ideas in Fruitvale Station, and you can kind of see him like coming into his own in that movie. And it's remarkable. And then he got to do Black Panther, and somehow managed to keep enough of himself in that movie that you sort of feel him in it, even though there's still tons of like smooth, sanded down marble stuff, right? I thought Naya would be like that, but we've now seen her first 3 movies, and I still don't fully see. And the thing is, it's okay. I want to be very clear that I'm not like criticizing her or like, how come you don't have an easily identifiable gimmick, brother? Why don't you have? What's your deal? It's not like that. I'm not shitting on her in that way. I want to be very clear. But you know, it feels weird to kind of like, she's like now sort of a named director, you know, she's another movie coming out, but in my head, I'm like, what's that movie going to be like? What? I don't know. And sometimes that's fun because then you get to be surprised and you get to watch someone evolve. But I'm concerned that being thrown into the world of IP this fast means that she'll be like the dark side of of Ryan Coogler, which is like a John Watts, who made one movie, Cop Car, with Kevin Bacon, that I think I've seen, but I don't remember any of it. And then he got to make Spider-Man No Way Home. And then he made Spider-Man Far From Home. And then he made Spider-Man Homecoming, then Far From Home, then No Way Home. He's only fucking made these giant tentpoles. And like people that really like the Spider-Man movie, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, nothing wrong with that. I largely enjoy the first two, sort of. Have this thing of like, they like it and they talk about him like he's a big name director because he's made these big movies, but he's still just like, who are you? Even like a lot of like workman guys from like the past, like had like, you know, like identities, or you felt like they were doing something. There was like some kind of signature. It doesn't always have to be like you don't have to be some like starkly, you know, individualistic. It doesn't have to be like that, but it's just still sort of like a lot of filmmakers, I hear their name and I sort of kind of know where we're going, you know? And I hope that she gets to develop that. I hope that she doesn't get sucked back into another one of these. I sincerely doubt that'll happen. But I'm curious to see where she goes. And the thing is, I felt like that since her first movie, and I just sort of felt like we'd be further along in resolving that mystery, and like we're just really not. But she seems very nice. I think she's got a lot of potential still. And there's some stuff she does in this that I think is very nice and very cool. And I'm rooting for her. And like I said in my review, Nia DaCosta, innocent. I am not blaming that many of the problems of this movie on her. And maybe some people are going to think that's like a cop-out, but it's just like, I don't see it. There's some heart here and some stuff that is ambitious and good. And then there's a bunch of shit that's just not. And I'm not just trying to say that none of it is her fault. Obviously, she's not a child. She doesn't need me to like infantilize and protect her from like internet haters or something. But I just do, my gut feeling is that like, I don't think we've seen the last of her or all of her yet, you know? But that's the Marvels, man. It's fine. I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that like, this is a movie that actually definitely is hurt by the fact that the SAG was on strike and actors could not promote the movie, because there's like one video from like Entertainment Weekly that I used as some B-roll in my video of Brie Larson and Tana Paris and Amalia Vellani and Nia DaCosta all together, and they have so much chemistry and life, and like it was very entertaining watching them talk to each other. And I was like, if they got to take this show on the road and like people got to see how they interplayed with each other, people would want to see more of that on screen. And it's like too late to do that now. Like that's, you know, you fuck up open a weekend, that's basically a wrap for you. And it just, I think this movie was originally, projections were for like $100 to $125 million opening weekend. And then I want to say after like the Variety article, like all the MCU's sky is crashing stuff, I think it came down to like 65 to 70. And then I think now it's like 40 to 50 or something. And I run a movie theater, and I don't want to give out hard numbers, but we had an embarrassing number of tickets sold for the early shows on Thursday night. And to be fair, at least in my building, those Thursday early shows are never busy for us for like any movie. So like there's that. But I've had tickets for opening weekend on sale for like a month maybe, and like over the course of the entire opening week that is currently on sale, we have not sold enough tickets to sell out one of our smallest houses. And that is very bad. This movie at my theater anyway, which has odd demographics and things of that nature, it's getting trounced by The Holdovers, the Paul Giamatti movie. And I know there's a lot of real cinema fans who think that's really great and cool. And I guess it kind of is, honestly. But movie critic me is always fighting for non-superhero movies and real dramas and stuff. Guy who has to run a movie theater and not get like closed for business in these uncertain times for our industry. I like it when a superhero movie does well, because more kids and young people come to see it, and they spend more of their parents' money than a lot of the discerning adults that come and go to a nice French restaurant before they come to the movie and don't want to buy popcorn. So did I enjoy listening to older people complain about how loud the Taylor Swift concert was? No. Did I enjoy taking a bunch of money from a bunch of white teenagers while they ran around with glow sticks for the Taylor Swift movie. Yeah, I liked that quite a lot, actually. So, kind of sucks, this whole Marvel's tanking thing. But we'll see what happens. I don't know. I did want to talk about this too. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. I got into like a thing with a commenter on my review. And I should specify and be honest that I've been very tetchy these last couple of weeks. Like, I've been very hypersensitive in my real daily life. And I've reacted to feedback and criticism kind of poorly. And it's something I'm a little bit ashamed of, I guess. But I got really mad because this guy was essentially telling me that like I had logged my review improperly and that like I gave it a rotten score, but I hit the fresh button and I was like dishonest and I was like, Disney shill, and that's the whole thing. Whatever. The guy meant well, I think. I'm not going to fucking shit on the guy. But I got really mad that he was like calling me a Disney shill, or like even loosely implying that I might be one, or whatever semantics. Because it was just like, I've reviewed a lot of Marvel movies and I feel like I put a lot of care into just trying to be honest, because that's the best thing I feel like I can be as a critic. Is like, if I liked something, I'll say I liked it. If I didn't like something, I say I didn't like it. Like, there are times where like sometimes I end up defending a movie that like I don't really want to defend, but I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking lie. I did have a good time, or I did enjoy this, and I did feel these things. I try not to reject those things, and that's not always easy. And I mean. I'm already feeling the guilt about this one. I should very clearly specify that I know that there are a lot of harder jobs or activities or tasks or pastimes than reviewing movies. So I want to be very clear that I'm not suggesting that what I do is like particularly taxing. Okay. That said, I do put a lot of work into what I do, and I take it very seriously, actually. You know what I mean? And sometimes I act laissez-faire about it, and sometimes I'm like, I try to be like chill and cool about it, but like I do take it seriously, and I do try to do things that I can be proud of, that other people can like, And I get very frustrated anytime someone like accuses me or implies that like I'm not being like factual, which is like, there's this thing that it's like, this is all subjective shit, brother. This is all like, we're just our feelings and opinions. And I try to back up my feelings and opinions with whatever knowledge I have about the craft of filmmaking and other movies and things in storytelling and stuff, But ultimately, this is not a fucking math problem. It's not a science experiment. It's talking about a movie you watched and trying to make observations and maybe see patterns or explain certain things to people and stuff, And I like to think that I do a pretty good job of it. And I'm aware that I'm not going to say different in the sense that I'm unique or like special, but I mean, I think that I'm different in the sense that like, I don't know a lot of other critics that go about the process the way that I do. And I feel like it's taken me a long time to get here, but I think that I'm pretty, happy with my process, and like I feel like this is like true and honest and real, and like it was hard to get to this point, and I still want to get further and do better and things, but like I did get to here at least. And every time I'm going to argue with someone where they talk about being a film critic and they make it seem like I am like a journalist who's misreporting like war coverage or something. Do you know what I mean? Like there's this thing that comes out of me where I'm like, don't fucking talk to me about this thing like it's this other thing. And I saw a lot of this online these last couple of days because of the Marvels, on like sort of both sides of the fence of the movie, which is like, I saw a lot of guys like this guy who were like, this movie's garbage and these Kate movies are shit, and like you can't prop them up and stuff. And like you're being dishonest and stuff. It's like, it's not, dishonesty doesn't, whatever. And then on the flip side, I've seen people saying the same thing about negative reviews. It's like, oh, they're just racist. Oh, they just hate women. And like, look, obviously there's always going to be sexist and racist and all sorts of trolls that don't like movies. There's always going to be a guy who's mad that there's a mermaid that's black. But also, maybe they made a movie with a black mermaid and it wasn't a very good movie. And a lot of people feel that way. That happens. And I in particular saw like a specific, I should have screenshotted the tweet. Sometimes I get on here and I talk about like tweets that I saw, and I almost never share the tweet. And it's primarily just because like I don't like singling out someone's opinion that like I don't even know, I didn't engage with, I didn't talk to this person. I just saw it and I was like, that's dumb, and angrily scrolled away. It would be weird to like at them and stuff. That doesn't seem necessary. But I saw a woman, I believe it was a woman. I mean, I don't, whatever, it doesn't matter. In the thread of someone talking about the Marvels and basically implying that like a lot of these negative reviews were like dishonest and like not real, and it's, you know, like, oh, not a surprise that all the people that hate it are men, and I'm like, I saw a lot of women that fucking hate this movie too, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that to make it like a false equivalency or something. It's just like I hate when people, Disney has empowered people to do this so much, making the thing of like, if you don't like something Disney did, it's because it's too woke and you're just a hater. And it's like, those people never seem to care about diversity or perspectives from marginalized communities outside of fucking Disney movies. You know, it just drives me crazy. But anyway, this person was responding to that tweet and they were like, yeah, it really feels like these people are being dishonest and like, you know, running on emotion and not professionalism. That was the exact phrase that stuck out to my mind. Running on emotion and not professionalism. And for me, watching movies is a very emotional pastime. Even though I'm a critic and even though I'm analyzing things and shit, when I go to the movies, I don't want it to be like I'm in there with a fucking Bunsen burner and beakers. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm watching a movie. I want to experience a story. I want to experience a visual and audio experience, and like I said experience too many times, but I want to feel that, and that requires emotions. My emotions, the emotions of the people that made it. Like, it's an emotional experience. So when you talk about it, like, where's your professionalism? Where's my professionalism in sharing a fucking opinion about a goddamn superhero movie? Like, because it did not come to the correct conclusion that you came to, that there must be something insincere or untrue about it, and like that bothers me. You see it a lot with the kind of like the tribalism of like online pro wrestling fandom too. There's just this thing where people talk about stuff like, just, you need to be factually correct. I'm like, where are you all coming from? Like, you are fact checkers at the fucking Washington Post. This is not Spotlight. It's a fucking movie review. Okay. I'm not unearthing, injustice or whatever. I'm just sharing my fucking feelings about a goddamn movie. That's an emotional experience. Okay. It's not unprofessional to not fucking like something. Okay. And that just, I've seen so many similar things this week that have really gotten under my skin, which is probably a weird thing I have to figure out on my own, because why do I care? Like, why is this something I care about? And it maybe just doesn't matter. Maybe this is a thing that like doesn't matter to regular people. There's probably a lot of much happier than me individuals in the world that don't think about stuff like this. They just live their lives. They're just chilling. They're just blissfully unaware of fucking people's opinions on the internet. Like, I firmly believe we were not meant to know this many people's thoughts in one lifetime. But anyway, I have one other thing I want to say about the Marvels and this whole film critic thing. And that is that there is some, I don't want to call it bias. I hate people who use the term bias in film criticism stuff, because it's like, whatever. But, and I want to call it dishonesty, because I fucking blew a gasket when someone aimed that at me. But I think sometimes critics, more often than many of them are willing to admit, can be heavily swayed by outside opinion. In good ways and bad ways. I guess there's not a good way to be swayed, but like in good ways and bad ways. By that I mean in positive reviews and negative reviews. But specifically with negative reviews, I think I saw some, like when I put my review up, I looked to Rotten Tomatoes, and at the time it was at 54, The Marvels. I think it's at 60 or something today, so it's technically fresh again, but it was 54. And I scrolled through some of the blurbs and just recognized writers and critics and stuff. I read a lot of film criticism. And this one stuck out for me from this one guy. And his blurb was basically like, this is the worst Marvel movie ever, or some shit. And I was like, see, everyone I've seen that said that, I'm not saying that no one feels that way, but it felt manufactured is what I mean. Is like, very often when there is like negative, if you have a movie that's like coming out There's a bunch of negative talk about it. Oh, they had reshoots. Oh, the editing didn't go bad. Oh, they had to do this. Oh, they had to do that. And there's this general sentiment in the air that the movie's about to be a clunker. There are a lot of critics in the game who consciously or unconsciously look at that as being like, this is free game to just fucking shit on. It's just, look, everyone is going to shit on it. It's going to be something that sucks. I'm just going to let the chopper sing. And a lot of critics just do that. And I'm not immune. I've definitely had times where I like really, really shit on something. Generally speaking, I hope if you've seen a lot of my coverage, you know that I never get that negative unless I had a visceral reaction. But I'm not perfect. I've definitely had times where, like, you know, we were all just, it was like the fucking Caesar. We all just go in there with our knives. We're all of the mind that this movie is fair game to murder now. And I firmly believe that not all, but some critics who had like the really extreme negative reactions to the Marvels, I feel like there was blood in the water. They smelled blood in the water and they just went in for the kill. And I don't even know if they knew they were doing it. Let's be real. And the reason I know this for a fact with some people is that specific guy who was like, this is the worst one ever. I went to see what he rated Quantumania, which is very, in my opinion, close to being the worst one ever. And he like gave that like a fair pass. He gave that like it's fine. It's okay. It's decent. And I was like, oh, really? Okay. Again, to me, I just think that, you know, with Quantumania, the backlash to this movie is super mid came once everyone saw it. Like, the original reviews were not scathing exactly. You know what I mean? But there's all this negative sentiment going into the embargo release. And I think that some people just went in with their knives out, and that just happens. And I think what's unfortunate is people will characterize it as just being like racist and sexist trolls. And maybe there are underlying racist and sexist leanings that are informing some of these things. But I've seen this particular phenomenon happen across a wide array of films. And I think that's kind of what is really the problem, is like there was a lot of negative sentiment around the movie. The financial side of it sounded like it wasn't going to work out, and people just kind of run with it. Sometimes if you go into something thinking it's going to be the worst thing ever, sometimes you'll be pleasantly surprised, which is maybe part of why I was cool with the movie, maybe because I had such low expectations. But other times, you go in thinking something's going to be terrible, and you're just watching it through that lens. If you go in with, this is going to fucking suck, everything in the movie is going to annoy you. Like, why are they doing that? Why they do a wipe instead of a crash zoom or whatever? You're just going to be like that. I do my best, and again, I'm not perfect. There's plenty of times I don't. I try to go in open-minded every time. I try to always give space for a movie to work for me. And sometimes it just doesn't, and it's okay. But I do try to... I just try to keep myself pliable. I just try to keep myself like, you know, willing and able and ready to absorb things, and not always just like coming in like with an agenda or with like with an axe to grind, or heavy preconceived notions is a big thing. One last thing I'll say for the what I watched section is I saw Poor Things, the new Yorgos Lanthimos film with Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo and a bunch of other people. I really liked it. I haven't done my review yet, so I don't want to like give away a lot of thoughts because I'm still processing or whatever. But I will say this: the marketing for this movie, which is a Searchlight Pictures release under the Disney umbrella, is making this movie seem kind of like a twee, like a light Guillermo del Toro movie or like a Tim Burton thing, kind of. And it is like, it's like every other Yorgos movie, and it's like so much more like vulgar than I was prepared for, and like there's just so much more fucking in it. And as a person who's always talking about how movies aren't horny enough anymore, part of me was almost like, is this movie too horny? I don't think so. I think it's a good movie, but it's a lot. There's a lot of weird stuff to unpack, and I just was not prepared. I didn't see the trailer until after I watched the movie. If I had seen that trailer, I would not have gone into this movie thinking I was going to see Emma Stone get like raw dogged in like the 19th century. So that was an experience of going in with no expectations and having a lot of crazy stuff happen. Now, if I'd gone in and someone was like, yo, there's really a lot of sex in this movie, I would have watched it very differently, you know? So I think sometimes, as much as you can, it is good to go in blind for stuff. I'll talk about them more whenever my actual video comes out, which will probably be next week, maybe. I don't know. I haven't made it yet. We'll get there. All right, that's everything I watched this week. We have enough time for some questions, I think. I've got a few. Okay. Q&A time. Channel Knockdown asks, question, with retailers such as Target and Best Buy planning to phase out DVDs and Blu-rays, how do you feel about the probability of physical media dying out, at least within mainstream culture? I think that's definitely like a thing. I think something that's a little bit unfortunate is that like buying things in the digital realm has been this thing where like you can buy something, but you never really own it. You're just leasing it sort of, and the people that own it can just take it away whenever they want. And it's almost like people who own IP have tried to like destroy the idea of ownership. Almost like, you at best, I am letting you hold this. This is never yours, you know? And I'm not a fan of that, obviously. And I do think that physical media will never like fully go away because of collectors, and because like, you know, vinyl never fucking went away. You know what I mean? Like, people like collecting records. I mean, I guess it did go away and then came back, whatever. I don't know. I'm not going to try to speak on stuff I'm not as knowledgeable about, but my thing with physical media is that like I used to have a pretty not very large, but I had a pretty good like DVD collection. And I moved around a lot in my early to mid 20s. And I ended up like more than once amassing a large collection of movies and then selling them all because I was broke and needed money. And like the second or third time I did that, and having to move a lot and having to fucking carry all these things, I just personally have my own sort of like distaste for collecting physical stuff. Like, I don't like collecting things. Like, I like books and I own some books, but I don't buy books the way I used to. I don't buy albums really. I don't even feel the need to. I have like a couple of like criterions that have been gifts, and I like most of the things that I have that are physical media were like gifts, which is I like them. It's not like I'm saying I dislike them. It's just like on my own, I very rarely am like, I gotta go get that. You know, there's tons of other shit that I like covet. You know what I mean? I'm not like a nomad that doesn't like owning anything, but something about it, I just kind of got soured on owning movies and music and books and stuff. And so when I first heard the news, I was like, whatever. Like, okay, it doesn't affect me, but it is kind of sad. And I don't like that trend of that, you know, you could buy like a digital movie or something and then like they'll just yoink it away. You know, shows just come on and off of streaming platforms and stuff. All that shit of just like this sort of, it's like this stuff doesn't fully exist. And maybe some people do cling to the media because it's like, it's mine. I fucking own these DVDs, they're mine. And I respect that. You know, I have a lot of friends that collect shit and it's cool. And like, I like looking at their collections. I just don't fucking, it's very simple. I have a complex where when I look at anything, I begin to picture myself having to pack it to move. And it just makes me not want it. I've moved a lot and I hate it. I hate moving and I hate putting my shit in a box and I hate fucking taking it out of the box later. So I just want to have less stuff. It just makes me kind of sick. Sorry, I'm not going to get into the whole thing. It's very weird for me, but yeah, I'm not a fan of physical stuff, but I do think on some level it'll always stick around, you know, just probably not, like you said, in the mainstream. So thank you for that question. My man Dylan Roth asks, my question is threefold. Oh my God. Wait, this is super wrong. I copied these questions into my little notes thing, and I actually double wrote a question. 1 second. Dylan did not ask that question. We'll just find Dylan's real question. Dylan asked something about silent movies. I know that. I just don't remember the exact question. So rock with me while I go and find it on this shit on the tube, on the YouTube. If I was a real motherfucker, I would like cut this out, but I'm not going to do that. You guys are just going to hear me struggling to find. Also, I don't use, this is like an old, this is like a Gen 1 Pixel that I bought off a Russian guy on Craigslist a while ago, and I just use it as like my reading my notes phone, which is, I'm weird, but So what I say this to say that the keyboard's very hard. My thumbs are very big. Hey, that's my voice. Anyway, no, I don't want to fucking update this app. I don't even know what version of Android this is on at this point. Oh my God. Can't believe you guys are still like listening to me do this. Why the fuck on the mobile version of YouTube have they made it so hard to find the fucking comments? What is that about? What? Oh, there. Okay, here we go. I just don't get it. I'm like, why the fuck do people... It annoys me. Okay, here we go. Dylan Neroth, my man, asks, This year sees two prominent films flaunting a near total lack of dialogue. No One Will Save You and Silent Night. What is your favorite wordless film of the talkie era, and what does it take for a lack of dialogue not to feel like a gimmick? I'm gonna have like a cheat answer for this, which is that I don't think I have a favorite silent movie of the talkie era, or movie that isn't whatever. I did see the trailer for Silent Night, and I'm curious to see how that goes because John Woo. I have not seen No One Will Save You. I only saw that like thing going around of like the screenplay and like how the guy that wrote it does a lot of that like quirky screenwriting shit that I hate seeing when I read screenplays. But I do like long silent passages in movies. And I like them because I know they're so much harder to craft well. And the one, well, I'd say two actually that like stick out in my mind. These are very basic bitch answers, but like, There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men both have really good, very long passages. There's no dialogue, and they're constructed differently, obviously, because PTA and the Coens are very different storytellers. But I love both of them. I love both of those like, like some of the long periods where we're just watching Josh Brolin figure out where to hide the money and how to get around and stuff. I love stuff like that. And I primarily like it in like crime fiction and noir stuff in particular. I think it's very good. And I love good dialogue. Who doesn't? I just think that it requires good legibility. Do you know what I mean? Like not just from the direction of the visuals and stuff. Sometimes you can make really powerful visuals for a movie and like they just have they look good and they look interesting, or like they capture your imagination or whatever. But I think for some very good silent sequences and stuff, it actually is much more important to have like good film grammar to like show stuff and make people understand what they're seeing and why they're seeing it and stuff. And that's like harder, I guess. But maybe it's not harder. I guess they're all relative. But that's kind of, when I think of like good silent sequences, that's what I think about. I like watching stuff that's like, I got to really pay attention and see where this image is going and see what they're implying and what's that and what does this mean? Like, that's my favorite thing about stuff like that. That's kind of a cop-out answer, but I really can't think of any like movies like Silent Night. But I can think of other passages like that. So that's that's my answer. I'm sorry, bro. Thank you for the question though. My friend Luke Davis asks, my question is threefold. This is the one I almost read earlier. What is something you know you're good at, something you know you're not good at but want to get better at, and something you're not good at but have made your peace with not being good at it? Can be film or film critic related or not, or both. Okay. Something I know I'm good at. I'm going to say two things. One of them is like a very silly thing, but I am genuinely proud of it. So I'm just going to talk about it because I don't have anywhere else to talk about it. It's a work thing at my day job. One of the only things about running a movie theater that I still genuinely enjoy, and it's a very weird thing to say, I genuinely enjoy it, but I like film scheduling. I genuinely enjoy every Monday. My programmer tells me what we're playing for the new week. And I have to make our schedule, figure out what we're going to play at what times and what houses and et cetera, et cetera. And I learned how to do this years ago when I was still like an assistant manager. And I learned from someone who had like fucking 20 years of experience at it. He taught me a lot of good stuff, but I never got particularly good at it under him because I would do it when he would go on vacation. It was his baby. And I didn't understand why he was so protective of it at first, because I was just like, what's the big deal? And then I worked at another theater, and I worked with another guy who was way less experienced than me, but he was really good at film schedule writing, especially for his specific building. And I always thought he was just magical. I would just see the things he would do, and I'd be like, how you fucking... Here's the thing. The thing people don't know about running movie theaters, like, depending on your space, right? Depending on how much space you have to work with, when a movie goes in and when the movie comes out, and at what times in spatial relation is very important. If you have 3 really hot movies and you're going to have 400 people coming, you can't have them all at the same time. Where are they going to go? You're going to create concession stand lines. If they're all coming out at the same time, that's going to necessitate having more ushers than necessary to have to stay on top of cleaning. Like, there's all these, it literally impacts every other element of the business. And as I got more experienced and I got more serious about it for what I used to always do it, but my first few months at this theater that I'm at now was right before COVID. And it took me a while to get used to the building. Every building's rhythms are different. The audience, everything. And like, I could not figure it out. And I had to kind of rely on the way the previous GM did things and his assistant, who like I also worked with, and like they showed me how it went. And I just didn't like it, but I couldn't figure it out. And then we came back from COVID, we were so dead all the time that like it didn't matter if you were good at it or not. It didn't matter. Like, you could make everything start at the same time. There wasn't enough people. And then sometime like last year, I just got more into it. I don't know what it was, but I just like I got into this zone of it, of like, part of it is like, I didn't always have the best like interactions with my programmer. Like, we butted heads a little bit, and I kind of started to get better at figuring out what she wanted. But then I also got better at figuring out what we needed and how to advocate for it, and how to be like, I know that you need to do this, but can we do this instead? Here's why, or whatever. And I feel like I got very good at it. And it's like, I don't know. I like gaming it out. I like figuring it out. It's like the puzzle pieces and stuff. It can be very stressful for like no reason, because you'll write like in your mind an immaculate schedule, and then someone in another state's like, can you make that a little bit earlier? Can you make that at 6:45? Or can we put that in a smaller house and stuff like that? And like, sometimes you agree, sometimes you disagree, and you have to kind of pick your battles. A big thing I learned was just like, I'm only going to argue when I know for a fucking fact I'm right. If I feel like this could blow up in my face, I'm not going to do it. I had a very specific thing that happened, which was last year. I guess it's a little more than a year ago now. I bet hard on Black Adam. Not because I thought it was going to be a good movie, or I thought it was going to be huge nationally, but I thought it was going to do well for us. And my programmer disagreed with me, and I kind of fought. And I was like, we just need at least a screen of this. I'm telling you, we need this. I think it's going to do solid. And it like fucking tanked. Like, it tanked everywhere, but it was like extra bad for us. It did not do well for us. And after that, it was like, there was like 6 months of like, anytime I wanted to disagree about something, I was like, anytime I say something, in the back of her head, she's going to be like, oh, like Black Adam. And I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm just fucked. So that was a very humbling experience, and it taught me better how to like pick my battles and stuff like that. And I've gotten pretty good. Like, I got, this is a very, again, I feel like ashamed talking about being proud of this, because like, you know, my day job is kind of like not something I'm very excited about anymore. But the CEO of the company, like, essentially said that he really liked the way I write these things. Like, that he's very obsessive about them, and meticulously looks over everyone's every week and like gives them like notes and stuff. And I was like the only person, I think, 1 week that didn't have any notes, because he was like, oh, he gets it. And I was like, yeah, I do get it. I am fucking good at this like weird thing that doesn't translate to fucking anything else in the entire world, you know? And I don't know. I like it. It's something I like doing. It's like, it fits like the way I look at stuff. Like, I kind of like looking at things and putting them together. And I don't know, it's very, a lot of things about my job are awful, and like dealing with the public is killing me. And there's a lot of stuff I don't like about a lot of stuff, but like this one thing that I do once a week is still like, it's like good, and I'm really good at it, and I'm really happy about that. And then the other thing I don't want to say multiple things that I'm good at, because it's like I'm bragging, but I think, and this is something I've been told a lot, so it's not like I'm just trying to gas myself up, but over the years I've always been told by people that I have a gift for explaining stuff to people in a way that doesn't make them feel stupid. And I think that's very hard, because it's very easy to be condescending and not realize it. It's very easy to be like, self-important or like put yourself above others and stuff. And I've always been told by people that, they talk about like certain pretentious people and they're like, that guy is a dumb guy's imagination of a smart person. You know what I mean? Like that sort of criticism of people. I feel like I'm sort of like a smart guy, smart-ish or whatever, for regular people, not dumb people, but just like I can talk about a variety of things to people if they don't know what that stuff is, and they'll like learn maybe from me, but they're not going to feel like I'm like fucking lording it over them or like dumbing it down for them or making them feel like idiots for not knowing stuff. And it's something I've been told a lot in my life, that people like that about me, and it makes them feel good. Like it makes them feel like safe to know that like they can just learn stuff and I'm not going to be like, what are you, a fucking moron? And I'm proud of that. That's something I'm proud of. Something I'm not good at and I want to get better at is I want to get better at taking criticism. I mean, like I take criticism. I take a lot of criticism, but I always have this like ongoing internal thing within a day of it of just like, oh, so I fucking suck. Oh, so everyone fucking hates me. Oh, so I'm like the worst. Okay. And I would love to just skip that. I would love to be able to just in the moment accept feedback and not and instantly think that like this person's like out to get me. Let me be more careful. I don't think people have to get me. It's not like a paranoia thing. It's more just like the minute someone tells me something that's like negative about myself in some way, I don't even really argue it in my head. I just internalize it and assume, yeah, that's probably right. I probably suck. And like, I want to not be like that anymore. That's something I'm working on. I'm getting there. I'm making some progress. Something I'm not good at, but I've made my peace with. I don't know if this is fair because I don't want to say I've made my peace with it or given up, but I'm really not good. I'm not handy. I'm not good with like tools or like a lot of very sort of traditionally masculine tasks. I like don't know how to fix like a car. I don't know how to like, every time I accomplish the most minor home improvement thing, that is like the fucking, like I created fucking fire. Do you know what I mean? And as a man, I just feel like you find yourself in more situations where like you're just sort of expected to be that way because a lot of people are good at those things. And I'm not, I never was. I never have a dad. I never had like any people around to show me this stuff. I just go on fucking WikiHow like everybody else. That guy who has that YouTube channel where it's just like, he's like a dad and he grew up without a dad and he just does like dad tutorials for like all the dadless people out there. I think that guy's a fucking hero. And I was so happy when his channel blew up. I was like, that's really good. That guy bringing a lot of good into the world, a lot more than me. But yeah, I don't want to say I've given up, but I sort of made my peace with it. I'm not as like ashamed of it as I think I was when I was younger, as I was like, fucking people are going to find out I don't know the difference between these screwdrivers, you know? But now I'm like, hey, you know what? I know a lot of shit that other people don't know sometimes. So it's probably okay that I have to like Google which one is a Phillips head. You know, that's fine. That's fine for me. That's okay. I will get better slowly by necessity. But you know, it just means that occasionally if I have to get like a desk put together, I'm gonna have to pay a guy because I'm not gonna be able to do it. I don't own a drill. I'm never gonna own a drill because I will fuck up and cut my own arm off something. It'll just be really bad. So that's a thing I think I'd say I've made peace with. Thank you, Luke. That was a really good question. I've got one final question for the pod. All right. The Dodgy Mermaid asks, question for the pod, maybe. Where is your ideal seat in a theater? Hope you're not a front row man. Do you have an ideal movie pairing, i.e. drink and snack? Do you have a movie or type of movie you always watch around Thanksgiving? Relatedly, are you yay or nay on Eli Roth's upcoming Thanksgiving horror? Love the pod, love the channel, love your reviews. Thanks for doing what you do. Thank you. That's really nice. I'll answer each of these. Where is your ideal seat in a theater? I prefer, I think it's what people call the Sontag seat, like the Susan Sontag. It's like the middle, like a couple of rows back. That's like, I don't like to be too far back. I don't mind being in the front actually. So for certain auditoriums, certain locations and stuff, I'll sit in the front. I don't really care. Cause some places have a pretty good like space between the front and the screen. Some obviously you can't. I think I saw like the second Lord of the Rings movie in the fucking front row, I think. And that was like hell. I saw Creed 2 and like not just the front, but like the front to like the off to the corner. Not ideal. But I like being, like a couple of rows from the front. That's kind of one of my favorite spots. I like for the screen to be as big as humanly fucking possible. Like, even a smaller screen, if you're close, feels big. And that's one of my favorite things. Ideal movie pairing, drink and snack. So my confession is like, people joke about like, I don't fucking buy concessions. They're so expensive. I just sneak food in. I buy concessions. I very often I don't have to spend money on tickets very often because I see movies for free as a critic. I see movies for free because I work in a movie theater and stuff. So very often when I go to the theater, the only thing I'm spending money on is the food. And often I'm seeing a movie in a space where I don't have time to go get food otherwise. So there's been plenty of times where, I have to eat concessions food as my dinner because I don't have another option. I did have a period. There's a theater I used to go to for press screenings all the time that had a McDonald's in the basement of the downstairs from it. So I used to just sneak McChickens in to my screenings all the time. That was more economical, obviously. But no, I don't like popcorn very much. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But my thing that I always get at movies is I like to get like something from the Freestyle Coke machine. I just like being able to hit different buttons for different sodas. I don't even care what they taste like. It's just fun. And then in terms of food, I like pretzel bites, not pretzels, only if they're in bite form with like cheese. And then I just like any kind of movie theater, like chicken tender. They were very hard to fuck up. I did it for a little bit. I was starting to get into a thing, and AMC ruined this for me. AMC had the gourmet duo where you could get popcorn and half of it was cheddar popcorn and half of it was caramel. And it was perfect. I only had this twice and it like changed my life. This is what I'm going to get every time now. And now for the gourmet duo, they only have caramel and Oreo as the options. Why the fuck would I need both of those at the same time? I want it salty and sweet, not both. It's fucking terrible. But yeah, my like go-to is like a drink, pretzel bites, maybe a hot dog, maybe chicken. I like protein at the movies. I don't really buy candy at the movies. I like candy, but like if I do, I get Reese's Pieces, the superior candy. And then do you have a favorite movie? Do you have a movie or type of movie you always watch around Thanksgiving? Not really. Also, I don't know that I'm going to see Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. I thought this is entirely too late to do a movie from Grindhouse. And Eli Roth is so hit or miss for me. I might check it out, but I'm not looking forward to it. In terms of movies around Thanksgiving, it's like I start watching Christmas movies for the most part. I guess some years I'll watch like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because that's a good movie. Mistress America, the Greta Gerwig, Noah Baumbach joint, is a really good Thanksgiving movie, technically. It's a Christmas movie, but I do tend to watch it earlier than Christmas. The Ref with Dennis Leary, directed by Ted Demme, rest in peace, written by Richard LeGravin-Ness. And it's Dennis Leary is a thief, and he has to hide out with this dysfunctional family. And it's like Joan Allen, I think, and Kevin Spacey, and like their family. And it's a really funny movie. It's one of my favorite movies. It's not a movie that like people, doesn't win awards and end up on a lot of lists, but it's like one of my personal favorites. I quote it all the time. That's probably one of my favorite. Again, it's a Christmas movie, but I watch it around Thanksgiving. I think I answered all parts of the question. Sweet. Okay. Thank you again for your lovely comment. That was like very sweet. I really appreciate that. Okay. We answered the questions. We talked about all this stuff. We did it. That is the end of this episode. Thank you guys for coming along. Obviously, if you are watching this on YouTube and you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up. And then if you loved it, please subscribe. Hit the little bell icon so you get notifications when I put out new videos. You'll always see the pod coming out first. You'll always see when I have new reviews pop at the first time and stuff. So do that. If you have any thoughts and you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments. You can ask me like regular questions. I'll just say yes or no to or whatever. Or you can ask something for future episodes of the pod, either or. I like talking to you guys in the comments a lot. I like that there's people that want to have conversations with me about this stuff. And then obviously, if you're listening to this, wherever you listen to your podcasts, please follow or subscribe or leave me like a review or something or a rating, share it with your friends. Thank you guys for helping me grow this podcast, like slowly but surely. I still don't understand podcast analytics, but I feel like more people are listening, and that's cool. I like that. I'm just going to go on vibes. Fuck numbers. Yeah, so thank you again for listening. Thank you guys for supporting the channel and me and each other and stuff. So yeah, we'll talk soon.